The next thing that's going to happen is that our universities and the quality of what we offer and the outcomes thereof are going to become less and less valuable. What's the solution? For me, now let me say first of all, the truth of the matter, though, we need to recognize that what is happening at universities is no different from what's happening elsewhere in the country. The sense of anomie that the country is gripped by at the moment. In fact, actually, what is playing out at university is what is playing out everywhere. It's this idea that nothing happens in our country as of right, it happens by demand. Nothing is delivered or given as of policy. It is delivered by demand. You do a door, you demand, you get water. You do a door, you demand a municipality, you get a municipality. There was no reason in the first instance why there was no municipality there. There was no reason why you never had water when you needed water. So this is governance by demand in our country. The second thing that the students are playing to in our country is the anger that so many of us in our country feel of being disregarded, disrespected, etc. This idea that in the best way you can express yourself is not by a reasoned speech, is by anger and fire and arson and violence. We're a society now that is unable to speak, whether it's in parliament or it doesn't matter where it is. As South Africans, we are no longer people who reason ourselves and listen to reason. The judges are now, and rightly so, raising issue about what is going on. Because all issues, all political problems in this country are only resolved by recourse to the courts. So the judges are being sucked into the political milieu that is ugly, that is going on in our country as well. In the ultimate, they can't avoid it, but in a properly functioning democracy, it should not be so. It should not be like that. So we need to recognize when we talk about this sort of milieu of so-called rape culture, to give an example. You can't, to a young person who has been freed to recognize that rape is a culture, if actually the president of the country says it's my culture. Now what do you expect? What do you expect a 19-year-old to say? Yeah? If the head of state, when challenged about multiple wives and all of the things that he's doing, his recourse is that is my culture. So there is a phenomenon called rape culture. And you find it at universities, you find it everywhere. Our society, violence against women, has become endemic. That's the society we have become. We should be ashamed of what we have become. Now it seems to me that at the heart of all of this, talking to vice chancellors, what then do we do now? Because clearly our politics as a country have gone all wrong. We need a corrective measure to the politics of the country. The politics of the country have not always been like this, but they are what they are today. And part of this phenomenon that students are having to confront is this inability of South Africans to trust. We don't trust the president. We don't trust the government. We don't trust the minister. We don't trust police. We don't trust anybody who's in authority. We don't trust Barney Pityana. We don't have to trust anybody. So we live with the burden of withholding trust, a hermeneutic of suspicion. So our starting point is always one that says, we don't trust. Now, you can't conduct a moral society on that basis. Because it's, before you know what's happening, it sucks in just about everybody into that malaise of distrust. And society, by its nature, functions on the basis of trust. And if you remove trust, then nothing happens. And nothing can happen that is justifiable and defensible. And that is what has happened in our country these days. And indeed, what I call anomie, Durkheim is very, very clear that once any society reaches a state of anomie, it has reached a state of revolution. In the olden days, it's at that point that the military would quietly visit the head of state at home and told him, by 8 o'clock in the morning, you must not be here. We can help you get out if you like, but we are now in charge. Or we kill you, or we throw you in jail. So those bad old days of military coups were a function of a society that was no longer functioning according to expectations of its constitution, etc. Now, what do we do? Where do we go from here? I do think that we need to, as Nelson Mandela says, we need to get back to basics. And the basics for Mandela is that we're a society that is founded on dialogue. We're a society, we owe the existence of this society because we were willing to trust the other person enough to sit down around the table to talk about the country which we, both of us, belong to and love and care for and its future. Unless we can get to that point where we really begin to say that nothing will happen, nothing will be resolved unless we're prepared to talk. Unless we get to the point where we can negotiate. This is what I say to students. That's what I say to vice chancellors. That this idea, we need to sit down in a rational environment and talk. If we need a mediator or conciliator, yes, so must it be. But we need to be prepared to talk about what exactly do we want. We need to help each other about what are the things that need to be removed in order for us to get to a point where we believe that we've got something in our hands with which we can move forward. The second thing that I think our times require and is needed, and we need a new sense of democracy. I don't think, contrary to many people, I don't think there's a problem with our constitution. Nothing. The problem is not the constitution. The problem is us. We have abused the constitution to a huge extent. We have distrusted what the constitution is capable of delivering. We have lived as much as we can to hold on to a past that is better for us. And we no longer recognize, and this is for me the greatest gift of South Africa, is that we're a country of multiplicities of languages, colors, races, whatever it is. And that makes South Africa such a vibrant nation that indeed we are. I do think that that is what our Constitution seeks to protect. But the Constitution can't protect it without you and I. To protect it to the extent that we enable that to happen. The problem with the politics is this, of the country, is that nobody takes responsibility. You know, Dietrich Bonhoeffer was on about taking personal responsibility, the ethics of responsibility. Nobody takes responsibility. It's amazing these days that with all the mayhem that has been taking place at universities, somebody says, but these students are somebody's children. They're somebody's son or daughter. These children, somebody is responsible for paying for them to come to university to study. Who is taking responsibility for what is happening at institutions today? Nobody. But who is taking responsibility? So at some point, society has to take responsibility and see how do we get involved. Government doesn't take responsibility. Each time, even before the vice chancellors have come up with what they believe was a viable proposal, the president has been persuaded at some point by somebody to announce a so-called no fees increase, in the hope, we must give it to him, that this would bring an end to the conflict, and it doesn't. It never does, because it's unprincipled.